Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be taking a look at a tank of a shotgun. And that shotgun is the Remington SP10 Magnum. And yes, that is a 10 gauge. So we're going to start out the video talking about the gun that we have here today. Then I want to get into some history and the evolution of the gun, as well as some variations that you might find out in the wild today. So with that being said, let's dive right on in. All right, so today we've got a 1998 Remington SP10 Magnum. This is a 10 gauge chambered for 3.5-inch shells, and it's a gas operated semi-auto shotgun. Now this one's in excellent condition, and we were lucky enough to actually get the original box, sling, manual, paperwork, choke wrench with it. So we really got the full package here, which is pretty exciting to share with all of you guys here today. Now this one's got the 23-inch vent rib barrel that takes rem chokes. And it's got the mossy oak breakup camo pattern with it as well. So pretty cool stuff right there. Now this one is a tank of a gun. It comes in at 10 pounds 14 ounces, which is just shy under 11 pounds. So definitely a pretty big gun, but I wouldn't expect anything less out of a 10 gauge. On top of that, it's got a 14.25 inch length of pull on it, which is pretty standard for Remingtons. And then in terms of trigger pull, we're looking anywhere between 5 to 5.5 pounds. I don't have the greatest scale, so after about 3 tries, I was ranging in that area, which again, isn't bad for a 10 gauge shotgun. So those are some of the specs on this gun. Now, these guns were primarily used for hunting, whether it's turkey, goose, ducks, especially, large mallards, things like that. And that's pretty much what they were designed for and used for. So now that we talked a little bit about the gun that we have here today, I want to kind of go into some of the history, the evolution, and some of the different variations that you might find out in the wild on this gun. All right, so Remington actually got the rights to produce this gun in 1989. And where that originated from was actually the Ithaca Mag 10. So as some of you guys know, that gun was really popular between 1975 all the way till 1989. And in 1989, Remington bought the rights and the design and intellectual property all for the Ithaca Mag 10. Now, instead of Remington just slapping their name on it and continuing production, they made a big decision there, and they actually decided to re-engineer, redesign, innovate, and enhance that design, and thus the Remington SP10 Magnum was born. Now, they made a couple different variations, but the earlier ones, were pretty much just standard finish with walnut furniture, and it wasn't until the early 90s when they started advancing off that. Now, originally it was just going to be a limited production gun, or a limited edition gun, if you will. So if you take a look, the first, 4,000 or 5,000 guns actually have an LE prefix in front of the serial number, and those are going to be a little more collectible. Now, in the early 90s, Remington actually made a deal with Mossy Oak, and they started dipping their guns in bottomland camo patterns as well as greenleaf camo patterns. And if you can find one of those guns, usually those are either 21-inch or 26-inch barrels, I believe. Those are quite collectible, especially if you can find them in good condition with no flaking and the original box and sling and accessories. That's definitely one that you want to be on the hunt for if you can find. That's the bottomland and the greenleaf mossy oak camo patterns. Now, as they went through the 90s, they started getting more camo patterns like this one, which is the breakup, as well as some other mossy oak patterns as well on these guns. But overall, the camo ones are a little bit more collectible than the regular ones, and then condition is really big, as well as if it comes in the box, the sling, and other accessories and paperwork. And on top of that, they produced this gun between 1989 all the way to 2010. So although it wasn't a super long run, it was a decent run. And in that time, you could find these in 21-inch barrels, 23-inch, 24-inch, 26-inch, 28-inch, all the way up to 30-inch. However, if you find one in the 21-inch or 23-inch, those are actually a little bit more desirable and worth a little bit more than some of the longer barrels out there. So just some things that if you're looking out in the wild and you stumble across one of those, you might want to get your hands on it because they are a little scarce, especially because they discontinued production in 2010. Now, some of the reasons why they actually discontinued this gun is number one, cost. Number two, Remington actually changed owners around that period of time, and it just made more sense just to move on from the SP10. And on top of that, they actually came out with the Versamax in 3.5-inch shells. And I think they were just basically taking a look and saying, hey, this is going to kind of replace the SP10 because now it's 12 gauge, it's more versatile. You know, it's still shooting 3.5-inch shells, and this is what we're going to market really hard, and they did. So that's a little bit of the history of this gun, you know, where it originated from, different variations, different models, and unfortunately the discontinuation of this gun as well. Now, I haven't actually had the chance to shoot this gun. However, I really do want to shoot it. It's just going to be a matter of time to find 10 gauge ammo. And what I'd really like to do is compare 3.5-inch shells of waterfowl and turkey loads on this gun compared to 3.5-inch shells of waterfowl and turkey loads in a 12 gauge. I'd like to kind of compare patterning, compare recoil, compare the weight, and just kind of do a video talking about some of the pros and cons and maybe what I would choose and the reason why. So definitely keep an eye out for that video in the future. But in the meantime, if you guys have shot both, take the time to write us in the comments. Would you choose the 10 gauge for 3.5-inch shells or the 12 gauge for 3.5-inch shells, and why? Also, if you still are shooting a 10 gauge, definitely let us know why you choose the 10 gauge and what you like about it as well in those comments. I know I like reading them, and a lot of our viewers like reading them as well. Now, as always, we love getting our hands on these guns, doing the research and sharing it with all of you guys. Thank you all for your continued support. Please like, subscribe, ring that bell so you can get notifications of all of our future content. Now, with that said, this is Scott signing off with The Average Joe's Armory, channel for The Average Joe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.